Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Achieving proper carbonation, keeping kegged beer at room temps, bottle carbonation versus kegged forced carbonation, and filtering beer after it's been kegged. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 299. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them to 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, and I am joined by the president and chief keg washer of KegConnection.com. Across from me in the flesh, Mr. Todd Burns. Todd, welcome to my office.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. It's there's a lot in here.
Yeah, I saw you admiring all of my stuff.
So is some of this Japanese and then some of it Korean?
No,
or?
it's all Japanese-based stuff.
Really? Because I thought Taekwondo was Korean.
Jiu-jitsu that I do. I
Oh.
do Taekwondo.
Jiu-jitsu, isn't that what is that?
The origins were in Japan, like a judo-based type thing.
Oh, it was. Okay.
And then it came filtering through Brazil, through the Gracie family, and eventually, fast forward to today, yours truly is now the head of the sport. So
Okay. Yeah, very interesting.
yeah. Isn't it cool?
Is that Winnie the Pooh back there?
No, it's a video game my kids love called Animal Crossing.
Oh, it kind of looks like Winnie the Pooh and his little friend, whatever the guy's
the ones
name
behind me and to the side and all this are based off of video games done in a traditional Japanese style.
I'll be darned.
And then the jiu-jitsu posters up there, sumo, of course. My favorite movie, Bloodsport. I have a couple of Bloodsport posters. Cowboy Bebop, that was an anime.
I've never heard of it. Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Weeb.
Let's
is
talk
what you
about
call
beer.
someone like me. Yeah. Anyways, but I'm not a weeb. I don't have a waifu pillow, so I don't think you can call me a weeb. But that term means nothing to you, anyways.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You're in town, so we're doing the episode from my office. I always like having you over. It gives me an excuse to clean. This is the cleanest it's been in a couple weeks.
Oh, I thought it was just always like this.
Yeah. Nah, you would think.
Spotlessly
I know.
clean.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really looks nice, though.
You didn't even say anything about my liquor table.
I almost got a drink for the
Okay.
show.
And I have a
you know what? I
fridge full
might
of
have
beer.
I should have a little. Oh, you got a fridge full of beer?
Go pick out a beer. I'll small talk people about what we're doing for recipes and all that. While Todd is getting the beer, and if you want to, the little fridge out there has the most beer, but the big fridge has some too. So I have two beer fridges, friends. Anyways, let me get the small talk out of the way while Todd's grabbing us a drink. If you join a recipe receiving tier for us in our Trub Club at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, you're going to get, let me see if I put it on the right one. Boom, there it is. Todd's ESB, a delicious ESB. I can tell you, I vouch for it because I have drank most of Todd's that he had on tap, and he doesn't have anymore because I consumed it all. But if, again, we're brewing that, it does ship out with Imperial's Pub, which is a fantastic strain of yeast from our good friends up in Oregon at Imperial. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. Let me put it back on that screen. There we go. I'm not used to normally I'm facing my monitors right here, but that's not a good look on my face. So
I grabbed
you got my new Glarus.
I just grabbed the first two that came the first two that my hand hit. I grabbed, but I don't know what they are.
Oh, that's I have a special connection in Wisconsin that like once a quarter ships me some New Glairs. I mean,
Really?
not like
So,
I was saving those.
One's Cabin Fever, and the other one's Fat Squirrel, but I don't know. I can't
don't
tell
have a
what
bottle
styles
opener out
they
here.
are.
Do you have a bottle opener? They're not Twist.
Oh, I can use your phone screen.
I don't like you. Do you have your keys on you by chance?
Yeah. There's a permanent marker. I bet that'll work.
Oh my gosh.
I can open a beer with anything, my friend.
Wow. What did you grab? Because one of them's Kid Kolsch, and one of them, or he's actually sent me.
This is a Fat Squirrel, and it says it's. I can't tell what's.
This is a lager, is what it says.
Lager. Yeah.
Cabin Fever is what I have. What do you want to switch? What does that one say?
Fat Squirrel. Let me see.
Well, what does it say on the bottom?
Oh, that's a.
This is an ale.
Yeah, it's definitely an ale.
I haven't tried the lager yet. Roasted barley malted.
I like them both. Either one, whatever you want.
Hazelnut notes. All right, well, let me try.
Yeah, try them both. Whatever you like the best, I'll drink the other one. How about that?
Well, that's good. That's what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's definitely roasted. I'm trying to think of what. I mean, it has like coffee notes to it too.
Yeah,
it's good. Let me try the lager.
I like these nuts. They're good.
Oh, that's smooth. I'll take the Cabin Fever.
Okay, that's fine. I'm drinking the Fat Squirrel. Wow, that's very good. Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you grabbed
sorry,
it.
you said you were saving these.
No,
but
I wasn't.
I literally just grabbed the first two things.
They were in the little fridge. You went to the little fridge first.
Oh, it's a nut brown ale. That makes total sense. It tastes like
a
nut brown ale.
Yeah, very much so. Anyways, so I got through the small talk of the recipes.
Okay.
The ESB.
Oh, which I just brewed, by the way. Remember?
You did.
Did you mention that?
I haven't because you were out there. So Todd just brewed the ESB, and because I floated the last keg of the ESB.
Yeah.
Did you have enough of the, like, you didn't dive into my Kent Golding's hops,
So yes, I did, but I bought plenty of them. There's plenty there.
Okay,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cause
I actually have some at home, so I might need to bring the ones at home back. But there's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty of hops.
Okay.
So I brewed as close to 20 I mean, that fermenter holds 19 at the very, very top, and I filled it to the very, very top. So
You're out of town, though. You're not worried about, like, I guess you set up a blow-off tube.
Yeah. So it's on pressure now. I've got it pressurized.
Wait a second. You brewed it a week ago.
No, I brewed it on Friday.
Almost a week ago.
Okay, so I brewed it Friday, and it was done. I left town Monday morning, and when I left town Monday morning, I cold crashed it. It was done, totally done.
Dang.
So I actually wanted to stop it. So I'll tell the story as quickly as I can. I brewed it. It was at like just under 70, maybe like 66 degrees. I set the glycol at below that. I went to bed. I woke up, came out to see how it was doing. It was bubbling like crazy, and the temperature was almost 80 degrees.
What?
I have no idea why. The glycol was running. No, glycol was running fine. It just, I guess the room was warmer. And the glycol machine just couldn't keep up with it well. I think the room was right around 80. I don't really know why. It may have been, we talked the episode before about how much does your temperature rise when you're fermenting. Well, in this case, it rose quite a bit. So it couldn't keep up with it, and it kind of got out of control. But it was only like that, for the best I can consider, because I checked it right before I went to bed, and I checked it right when I woke up. So it obviously took a while to rise that much. So I don't think it was at 80 for very long, maybe just 3 hours or something like that. And I immediately crashed it down and got it down to about 64 and kept it around there. Maybe it slowly but surely rose up to maybe 67, and then it was done by Monday morning. And it tasted great. I mean, I tried it, and I couldn't taste any kind of off flavor. Everything was fine. It wasn't hot for very long, so I don't think it affected it a great deal. And it was done very quickly, but I was also, for one of the first times, you'll be very proud of me, I stopped it at 110.
Did you really? You didn't let it go beyond?
No, I didn't let it go beyond. So I stopped it at 110.
Why?
Because I really wanted to try to hit that low 5% alcohol.
Okay.
I didn't want it to go a lot over that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep it at a true ESB alcohol level.
Yeah.
So I think it was 50, and I stopped it at 010. So it's like off the top of my head, that should be about 5.3, maybe 5.2. I don't know.
You're a meticulous note taker. What did the last ESB finish at?
I'd have to look on my notes.
But
I don't remember.
It was drier.
But, yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it was lower. Pardon
Yeah,
me.
I think it was 1.07 or
okay. So is
or
this
1.008.
So in theory, because you brewed on the same system, same recipe, is this one just going to be a little bit more malty? It
tasted like an ESB. I mean, it really.
Well, your last one did too.
It did. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of difference.
Okay, I was saying, because the last one wasn't that dry.
No, it wasn't overly dry.
Not at all. I didn't realize it got to 10.7.
Yeah, so it may have been 8. It wasn't a huge difference, and it's. I stopped it. I was actually going to stop it the night before, and I looked at it and it was at 1.1. So I said, nope, I'm going to leave it overnight. And it was at 1.0 the next morning, so I stopped it. I cold crashed it.
Wow.
So, and it may go down to 1.09. It still ferments a little while you're going through the cold crashing, but it'll be close.
And
so
you're
I
using
think
that Easy Dens, right, for taking all your readings
Yeah,
now?
all the readings, yeah.
Isn't that awesome? And does it save it in your phone?
Yeah,
in the app?
Saves it in the phone, and I probably...
Your phone's charging.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't think I took more... Let me see my phone.
Sure, hold on.
I don't think I took more than 40 or 50 readings during those 4 days. So,
so wait, do you find with the Easy Dens you're even doing more readings?
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you only need like 10 milligrams, or you need nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just I'm checking it all the time, and if I pull it up here, we will see what the ratings are, and you can kind of while I'm doing that, if you want to get started on anything, so the last. Yep, that's exactly what it was. It was 1.050, 1.010, 5.3%, and attenuation, 79%. I'm telling you that yeast, I was worried about the yeast. In fact, I should mention this because I bet a lot of our, a lot of people in the Trub Club will find that they get this as well. That yeast was very thick, and even though the first one I did, I shook it real well, and then I started to pour it in, and it was just falling out in clumps. It wasn't a liquid like it usually was. I was like, oh, brother, what's going on here? So, I kneaded it a lot, and I shook it, and I kneaded it, and I shook it. I did that.
Like a bread maker. Yeah,
and really got it mixed up really good, got a good slurry going, and I poured it out, and it was exactly the same. It just fell out in clumps. I was like, I feel good about this. It's not the way it normally is. And then, that yeast took off. By the time I went to bed that night, it was going strong, and I brewed it that morning.
Yeah, you had the group chat worried, me, you, and James, because you were like, James was the one who was reassuring, like, did it smell foul? And you're like, no, not at all.
No, it smelled great.
So I'm glad it worked out. And you did a taste test before cold crash, and you said it tasted great.
Tasted great. In fact, I actually took a reading, and then I took some more beer out and had a beer out of it because it was.
Did you really?
Well, think about it. It was probably at low 60s at that point, and an ESB is a beer that really, to me, tastes good when it's warmer.
Yeah,
so it tastes
low
fantastic
carbonation too.
Yeah, and low carbonation.
What is it about English styles that lend themselves to higher than American temps or higher than normal temps and less carbonation?
I think it's just that the British. That's the way they had to brew, and
right.
And that's the way they traditionally served it, so that's what we're used to.
Yeah, because a bitter like ordinary bitter or the ESB, the extra special bitter, like I don't mind if it's 50 degrees.
Right. No, absolutely. Me too.
And not flat, but not overly.
Doesn't need to be overly carbonated.
Not
right.
at all. Yeah.
And I did leave it carbonating, and I think I left it at like 10 PSI, but I'll be gone. It won't be overly carbonated. It never does in the fermenter. You a lot of times you have to add a little when you put it in the keg. I probably won't add any this time. It'll probably be perfect.
It'll be great. Yeah. I'm excited because this should be more ESB on tap.
Yeah. And I pulled all the weekend. Actually pulled all the yeast out of the bottom, and I think we'll be able to drink it when you're there next week.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, you say that. You're not going to be there Monday, but you're going back before you come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So can you put it on tap by the time I get there Monday?
No.
Because I was going to do the beer drinking challenge. I actually, what's funny? I told my wife, without thinking this through, I told her, honey, I'm going to do Sober October. I was doing like a mini bulk, but by mini bulk, I mean I just gained 12 pounds in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I've seen you eat.
How dare you? But it's true, especially at y'all's house. But it's just, Liz, she pressures me.
Why do you think I look like this, huh? If I was a bachelor, you think I'd look like this?
So I told Christy, I was like, I'm going to do Sober October. And then I realized episode 300 is next week. Right. I was like, maybe I'll do Sober-ish, October-ish.
Right, right.
After episode 300, I am sober for the rest of October. Probably.
Good for you.
Probably. But we can't on episode 300. We're going to have so much beer there on tap.
Oh, yeah.
And sours to drink. I just can't wait for some watermelon sour.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Anyways, I already went over the Chub Club recipe. Episode 300 next week. And again, the last call. Let me put it back on the screen. Oh, wrong screen. There it is. Todd's ESB, last call for that, because if you're listening to this, it's the end of September. We're recording this on the 29th. We should be publishing it on the 29th too. But like I said, if you want to brew this delicious recipe Todd's been talking about, and some people accuse me, Todd, sometimes of being infomercial-ish with the recipes, but we don't push recipes that we don't brew and that we don't enjoy. We haven't done that. We've never sent out a recipe that we also didn't enjoy.
We have sent out recipes that you and James probably didn't enjoy as much as I did. How about that?
Absolutely. If it's an IP, but
I like this nut brown.
We're very transparent about that, though, when we do that. Like, yes, this IPA, Todd loved it. Not the biggest fan of the style, but like the Galaxy IPA, it's good. It was great.
Yeah.
Or the Mosaic. You did a Mosaic one time. Ooh, delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, for an IPA, for the style. But anyways, all that information, like I said, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club or join our Chub Club officially at any level. We greatly appreciate y'all. Again, it's patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Keeping this train rolling. We do have 4 questions for y'all. But before we get to that, it's time for listener feedback. It's why you needed the headphones, just to hear my bumper. This week's listener feedback from one of our favorite people in the world, Fred, also known as Blind Brew Guy.
Hey guys, this is Fred, Blind Brew Guy. I was calling with a little feedback for Pete's problem with the pressure fermentation. I've never had that issue with the higher finishing gravity when I'm pressure fermenting, and I do it quite a bit. I'm thinking it's more of a problem with his mash temp, and maybe he's mashing just a little bit higher, so he's getting more long chain sugars, and they're just not fermenting out all the way, regardless of the other things going on there. So that's just my feedback. Take it for what it's worth. Also, congratulations on your upcoming 300th episode. I kind of thought you guys would run out of things to talk about by now, but that doesn't seem to be a problem. So keep up the good work. Cheers, friends. Bye.
Thank you, Fred, for leaving that feedback. He doesn't know me, obviously. I can drag something out forever.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about ourselves. Yeah.
I would do that all day, every day.
Right.
And I'm doing it on the clock. Oh, man. What a life.
Cheers again.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this beer. I've never had this before. Very good.
I should have got his glasses. I'm sorry. People listening or watching, rather, on YouTube are going to go,
I cannot remember the last time I drank a beer out of a bottle.
No, me
and
neither.
didn't pour it in a glass.
You don't let me at the ranch. I mean, I say you don't let me. It's not. You're not.
I just thought you were a heathen, so I was going along with it.
You observed I'm a heathen. Yeah, it's actually the New Glarus out of Wisconsin makes incredible beer. One of their shticks.
Wonder what it smells like.
One of their shtick. It's not even a shtick. They don't distribute outside their state.
Oh, nice.
So I've got an inside mole who ships me New Glarus every twice a year.
Nice.
And not a ton of it, and that reminds me, Kenny, I still owe you beer.
Kenny and I have already spoke.
Did you really?
We texted each other, and I promised him that while I was here, I would try to pick up some beer because he completely gave up on you.
Okay. Who is he? My pop? Golly.
Yeah. Your boss? Your pop? What?
Yeah. Who does he think he is? Someone who knows me? Jerks. Anyways, we do have 4 questions for this week's show. Our first one is a voicemail from our buddy Joel from Montana.
Hey guys, this is Joel in Montana, and I have a quick question about carbonating my beer. My wife consistently requests more carbonation in my beer, and so I have a lager on tap right now at 10 pounds, and I keep it at 36 degrees, and so I don't know whether my faucet isn't adequate, but at that pressure, I get a lot of foam. So I'm not real sure how much colder I could make the beer if I kept it closer to freezing. But if you have any ideas, I would buy a new faucet if that helps. And no, it doesn't have flow control. It's the one that came with it, so it's not probably adequate, and that might be the problem. But anyway, I would appreciate any suggestions. I am looking at the X1. I would love to get a CM Becker faucet, so maybe that's the solution. But it could also be temperature, and it could be something else. So anyway, if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear it. Love the show. Thanks, you guys. And, yeah, lots of good things about Joshua. Okay, bye.
These people know this. They know how to work the system, my friend.
So it's getting sickening, yeah.
This is the only time I get this. People call in and you answer the phone and they butter you up that way. This is, let me have this.
Okay. But, it is all about Joshua.
It is all about Joshua.
It's kind of the way the company revolves.
For almost 15 years.
Yeah, and the show and everything. It's all about Joshua.
We're living in a simulation, baby, and it's on me. Anyway, Joel, that's a great question. Starting from the top of it, I have never heard of the colder temperatures causing foam. If anything, it's on the other end, right? When the beer warms up.
I don't think that's what he was saying. I think he's saying, "Hey, it's at 36 degrees. Why is it foaming?"
Gotcha.
So, first and foremost, is it really at 68 degrees
or 38?
It's 38, 68.
36. Yeah.
68 degrees. That's why it's foaming. All right. So, is it really at 36 degrees? What I would do is I would take a thermometer, put it in a glass, and I would pour the beer in a glass and see what it says. Because, your thermostat may or may not be accurate. You may have to adjust it differently, put a thermostat inside of there, see what a good thermostat, good thermometer is reading, and try to determine if you have one of those instant read thermometers, probes, pour it in a glass, check it, and see what it is. If it's really at 36 degrees, then I'm a little shocked that it's foaming. I don't know how many feet of line you have on it. You should have a minimum of 5 feet of 3/16 ID line. Flow control would certainly help. Because then you have unlimited adjustment. Even if it is a little warmer and you can't get it colder, you could still give it more restriction and cut down the amount of restriction to the point where maybe it's not pouring very fast, but you're getting a lot of restriction. The only other thing would be, how are your lines inside the keezer? Sometimes if you've got a whole bunch of line and it's looped around, you can get some bubbles forming at the top, and what happens is you get a lot of foam when you're first pouring the beer, and that foam kind of continues through. Because once you get foam in the beer, one of the things that I almost always do when I pour a beer at home is when I pour that first beer, I'll pour a little beer into a different cup and get that first spurt out, and then once it's flowing good, I'll put my cup under there and continue to pour until I get a perfect pour. So it may be the way you're trying to pour it. Even with flow control, that happens because if I had a friend come over a few weeks ago. His name's Eric. Known him forever, and he tried one of my beers. He went over, got a cup, poured it out, lots of foam, took a sip of it, and he goes, "Oh God, this beer's terrible," and I don't like that style. Yeah. And I said, "Well, I know that she just poured it out of the tap. I don't think anybody's had any of that beer for over a week. I said, it's probably got spoiled beer in the tap at the very end. I said, pour a little bit in a glass and then pour some in. And he did that. And he was like, oh my God, this beer's fantastic. You were absolutely right. So then the rest of the time he was there, he wasted a ton of beer because he always had to pour about 4 ounces out before he poured a beer.
Yeah,
and you've met Eric. He's one of the most annoying people that.
Does he listen to the show?
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Well, depending on what I was going to say.
Yeah. He can be a very annoying person when he wants to be. Right?
Well, I don't know.
Most of my friends.
Hey, Eric is, we went to Great American Beer Festival 2013. Remember, I almost fought the guy. I mean, I wanted to. I was getting so annoyed with him.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I almost want to fight you every trip we go on that's prolonged.
I don't ever remember him getting in a fight. He's not a very good fighter, so he always kind of knows when to back up at the very last minute. Right?
I was getting annoyed that whole, But again, you and I, if we're on a trip together and it's going to be 7 or more days, I know we're getting on each other's nerves by day 5.
I don't think you ever get on my nerves, do you?
Oh, you get on my nerves so bad. You
really?
know that.
You're just, I find you a source of enjoyment all the time.
I'll give you a little tip. If you're hanging out with Todd Burns, don't let him know what bothers you because he exploits it. That's it's kind of his MO. So I would say, he's putting it at 10 psi, right, for the effect of adding more carbonation. In this case, would you say it'd be better to reforce carb and then put it back at a lower serving psi?
Well, here's a problem. His wife thinks it doesn't have enough carbonation. Well, one of the reasons may be that he's getting so much foam, he's losing carbonation due to the foam. So, if he to solve his wife's problem, he can't really take any of the carbonation out of the beer because it's not carbonated enough to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, the problem we have to solve here is the foam. And to solve the foam issue, you have to have more restriction. You have to make sure the temperature is correct and make sure there's not some other weird thing that's causing foam. First thing I would check for sure is the temperature.
Of the beer.
Yeah, I would pour the beer in a cup and really see what it is. Because I've had people tell me many, many, many times that, hey, this beer is 36 degrees. And I'm talking about going into a bar, and they're like, we're getting foam like crazy. The beer's 36 degrees. I don't know what's going on. This happened to me like a month ago, and I walk in, take a thermometer, pour a beer in a glass, and it's 47 degrees.
Oh,
and
made a discrepancy?
Yeah, and I'm like, it's 47 degrees. Well, how's that possible? I have it set for 36. Yeah, but Joe, the guy that does all the stocking, and you've got your vegetables in there, and you got your meat in there. He's opening the door every 5 seconds, so it doesn't matter what it's set on. If you take a thermometer, you walk into the walk-in cooler. Look, it's 47 degrees in the walk-in cooler, even though the thermostat's. Now, tomorrow morning, your beer's going to pour great when nobody's been there for 8 hours.
Right.
But I would check the temperature of the beer first. And, I've got a video on foam.
Right.
And a lot of people say that that's very useful to them because what I do is I walk through each and every step. And so that may be something you want to do is watch that video on foam and see if that helps. And then if you still can't determine what it is, give me a call, email me, reach out to me, and I'll help you, and we'll walk through it.
I'll put the link to the video in the show notes because you're right. It has gotten a ton of views because this isn't a unique issue.
No.
Anyone with the draft system at some point is going to run into foam.
Including me. It happens to me.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's just going through the troubleshooting of determining what it could be. The flow control is the fix in regards to I'm a man of convenience. I don't want to troubleshoot. I'll just add some restriction and boom. Now it's a really slow pour, but there's no foam or the right amount of foam.
Yeah, we had a trade show one time when we had like 6 beers or maybe it's 4 beers on tap, and we had one keg that was foaming like crazy.
Yeah.
And it was just whatever that evil beer god was causing the foam is what we finally determined, right?
Yeah. But we did have V10s on that jockey box that we set up.
Yeah.
So that made it way easier to troubleshoot.
Sure.
I mean, I say that. They just were slow.
He mentioned the X1. Listen, the X1 is a great faucet. I actually just worked on 64 of them in a bar in San Antonio. That's why I'm in town. And it wasn't because there was anything wrong with the faucet. Well, there was actually. There was one little part that was off, and I had to replace all those. But they had 64 of them in this restaurant, It's Twin Peaks. I can say the restaurant name, right?
Very family-friendly establishment.
Yeah. And so I spent about 4 hours there working on their faucets, and they were all working great when I left. That was just a little glitch. We just had one part where we had a little mistake on. But anyway, we got that fixed. We all make mistakes, right, Josh? So,
that's the title of my memoir. We all make mistakes. The Joshua Stubing story.
But the X1 is a fantastic faucet. We talk a lot about the V10, but the V10 is very expensive, and it doesn't necessarily work better than the X1. It's just all stainless, and people like that.
The aesthetics are beautiful. My pop and I have X1s. We have 4 of them, and they're fantastic. That is what I always recommend to people for flow control because it's budget friendly.
Yeah, and I have X1s at my house
and V10s,
and I use 6 V10s on my Keyser and 3 X1s on my kegerator, and they both work great.
Yeah, you do. That's and I think the first setup or the first video that has your whole setup was the DIY presentation, right?
Yeah,
on Keysers,
and also that inline flow control really works well.
That's great,
and if you've got a tower, it gets really tricky to put more than one flow control on a tower because most American towers are just too small to get the shanks in.
Yeah.
But the inline works fantastic as well. So.
Speaking of towers, this is kind of digressing. We have a vendor who's about to send us a product because he thinks he's made the best tower cooler. Right?
That's right.
And so we'll have a video on that. He did tell us to give him some time because he was trying to source some stuff.
Right,
so I don't know when that's coming out.
I think he said he was going to ship it in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So we sell one now, and he basically is like, I said, yours is a lot more expensive. I'm not sure we can sell it. And he's like, let me send you one and try it. And I said, you know what? If you send me one, I'll try it against the one we sell now, and we'll compare them together, apples to apples, and we'll do. And then he wanted us to try one other thing as well. So we're going to try some different things, do a video of that, do a comparison, and we'll share that with you so you can get an idea of how it works.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's another thing with foam is if you have a tower and you're not circulating cold air in that tower, you're going to have even more line that's got warm beer in it. And you got to get that out before you're going to get a good pour.
What I liked is he was very confident in his emails.
He was.
So that makes me excited because that means he obviously believes in his product. And the one we sell right now, the Cold Tower, which I think we have one in stock right now. I mean, we go through them and then we're out of stock, and then we go through them and then but that one seems to work great. So I guess I don't know how it gets better except for, I guess, the consistency of the distribution of cold air.
Yeah, he's saying it doesn't work great. But what? To be fair, I don't have one of those in my tower. I have the one because of the
I thought that is what you had.
The kegerator that I own has its own cooling system.
Oh, well, my bad. I thought you were using that.
No,
I'm
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then because I was like, it works great. I use it at my boss's house all the time.
Well, it's kind of funny. The one I have has a fan that's blowing out pretty hard.
Yeah.
And it just has a clip that holds a hose over that fan so that some of the air coming out of the fan also shoots into the tower.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, here I was defending. I mean, the one we saw on the site has good reviews, too.
I know the other thing he was going to send us. It's an insulator for the tower. And he basically said he did some tests, and he doesn't think the insulator works because you still have warm area. And I understand where he's coming from. I've told that to people many times that when they're like, I want to run a beer line through a wall. I'm going to go through a wall, and the wall's, 6 inches thick because it's, the double wall going into my basement, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you can do that, and it's going to work great while you're pouring beer. But when you stop pouring beer, the next day when you pour a beer, that insulation's not going to keep that line cold.
Right.
I mean, it only keeps it cold when there's cold beer flowing through it, fairly often. So insulation does not work as well as circulation.
Absolutely. Yeah, on like Teddy's, where they have a direct draw. What are they doing on their shanks in there?
So they're coming, that is direct draw. So they're coming right through their walk-in, which is extremely well insulated. And, the shank's on the other side sticking into the other side. So you get a lot of cold that goes through that shank.
So it's like built in. They don't have to do anything else because it's their cold room.
One of the things I tell people all the time is they say, hey, I'm building this Keyser, and I don't want that shank sticking way out because then I'm afraid it's going to get in my way. So I want to cut it totally close. I want half an inch sticking out just so I can get the beer nut on. I say, okay, I know that's what you want to do, and that sounds great, but having a little shank sticking out into the cold area actually cools that end, and that coldness goes through the shank, and it keeps that beer colder in the shank. Yeah. If you don't have anything sticking out, there's really no cold on it, and that's going to cause some issues. So you're actually better having a little shank sticking into your cold area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? We got to include that in a future video too.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have had people ask about doing videos on direct draws and the different types of, not conventional home draft setups, because drilling through a wall and whatnot isn't your average setup for a home brewer.
No.
Now, that's more commercial usually, but more people are doing bar build outs in their basements and stuff.
Right.
And so it might be beneficial. But anyways, yeah. So Joel, I'll put the link for the foam video in the show notes. That's where you tell them to start.
Yep.
And go through that troubleshooting. Or again, worst case, email tburns@keggconnection.com.
Yep.
Or call you 325-356-5204.
Yep.
Ask for Todd.
Or you can call Josh too. What's your cell phone number?
I was going to do a hard stop so I could do a hard, and we're back. Jerk. Anyways, thank you so much, Joel, for submitting the question. A great time to remind y'all, if and when we take your voicemail question to 325-305-6107, you get a $25 gift card to keggconnection.com. If you do a text message or you do a submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, you still get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good. Moving on. Our second question of this show was a text message from our friend Bryson to our hotline at 325-305-6107. And he wrote, "Hi guys, Bryson here, a new brewer from Washington State. I have 2 questions for you. My kegerator space is limited to 2 corny kegs, but I want to keep brewing and kegging while maintaining 2 kegs on at all times. Do I need to keep my kegs of homebrew in the fridge before moving them into the kegerator, or can I keep them at room temperature until I have space in my kegerator? My second question is about the Trub Club. I'm thinking about signing up for the every other month recipe club. Is it still charged monthly at $35 per month, or is it only charged every other month when you receive a recipe? Thanks, guys. Love the content. Kolsch on, Bryson. Bryson, good questions. Let me start with the Trub Club one, get it out of the way first, because sometimes people get confused. No, the $35 one was the option for people. It's $35 every month, but you get a recipe every other month. It was a way for people to support our efforts at a lower cost than the every month recipe, but also not get bogged down with the recipe every month. So it's been our actually most popular one for a while now. We have, of the 40 some odd people who are receiving recipes, I think the majority of them are every other month, just because or people start at the 50 and the every month and they switch because they're like, man, I don't hate me, man, but I just can't keep up. I'm like, listen, we're not all Todd Burns here. I haven't brewed since March or April. We can't all.
Shame on you.
I know. You've brewed 100 times more than I have in a month than I did the whole year so far. But I totally get it. But yeah, that's for Trub Club. And we're still using, he had there's other questions about it too, asking about if Patreon's the only way to do it.
I think $35 is what our overdraft fee is. So somebody's went to an overdraft fee this month because we overdrew our account.
I did overdraw our account. That's not part of the show, Todd. His first question, though.
I think I mentioned it, though, didn't I?
I was doing my, what? Who is this again? I don't, no habla. No, sorry.
Yeah, so it's not like we're rolling in dough. We're running out of money. Yeah, so.
Homebrew Happy Hour is broke. Well, that's why I've been looking forever for alternative platforms that don't have high fees. And everybody and their mothers, if you're processing credit cards, they find another way to also get more money off you.
Right.
Processing fees plus this, plus that. Oh, your platform fee. Yeah, Patreon, I did the math. Like for the $50 club members, I think we get $36 from that is what we get.
Yeah, I know. We
they take out a lot, but there's no other solutions to offer the same kind of thing where people join. I mean, the only other thing that I can think of is if we tried to just do through PayPal or Bitcoin. We could go to Bitcoin and just manually keep up with like a spreadsheet or something. I don't know. But anyway, that I won't.
What is Bitcoin?
You know what crypto is. He's Dogecoin king over here. But anyways, his first question. You are probably the most lenient person I know in regards to being okay with beer, whether it was previously cold and warming up to room temp and being cool with it. We've received beer before. It comes to your office. We don't take it to a fridge. A couple weeks go by. We then cool it down. We drink it. It tastes great. What is the kind of rule of thumb for you in regards to homebrew that's not pasteurized? And I don't know how much of commercial beer is pasteurized, if it all is. But what is your rule of thumb? Like if you have a keg, you brewed it, it fermented, I probably cold conditioned it and you keg it. Are you willing to let it get up to room temp or are you not?
So, a lot of times when people do secondary fermentation, they get busy with stuff, and I've left stuff in secondary for a month, or maybe I've certainly left it in for more than that. So, you can, but let's say you get it kegged and it's sitting there. Can it sit there a while? Absolutely. A lot of it depends on temperature. It certainly can't sit there in your garage at 100 degrees like that. If you got it in a cold closet and it's 60 something degrees, it'll probably be fine for a while. Different beer styles it's gonna affect them differently. It is not pasteurized. The only beer I know that's pasteurized is import beers from Europe, where they're coming over in a container ship and they pasteurize them for that reason. I'm sure there's some American beers that are as well. I just don't know what they are. For the most part, it's going to start to taste bad after some point. It's not probably going to be bad for you or hurt you, but it's not going to taste good. The general rule of thumb is keep your beer as cool or as cold as you can. And if you're going to store it for a very long time, the colder the better.
What is cellar temps to you? Is that high 50s?
Yeah, in the 50s, yeah.
With winter coming up,
high 50s. I'd have to Google it.
Well, I mean, like you said, if it's like low 60s, it has a better chance than if it's high 70s.
Oh, yeah.
And with cooler temps, I'm told they're coming. Today, it's like 92.
Well, and that's the problem. We're in Texas. So when somebody asks this question, it's like, it's going to be...
And he's in Washington State, though, so it gets cool.
It's going to be 78 degrees in the air conditioning in Texas if somebody sets their AC at that, know. So,
but in Washington State, it's plausible to say today's probably having 60-degree days of their high.
Yeah.
And so if he has, I don't know, Washington State is big on basements, but cellar temp areas, like you said, a closet, might work out perfect for him.
Yeah.
Where keep on brewing and just storing it. Knowing, in your opinion, just to put you on Johnny on the spot, I didn't tell people before we recorded. You have no idea what the questions were.
No idea.
Literally zero. I didn't even send them to you this time.
No, you didn't send me the questions. I don't know what they are. Most of the time, I don't.
You get them ahead of time.
I get them ahead of time, but I don't always read them because I kind of enjoy that in a way. I like the, I don't know. I enjoy just getting a question, having to answer it without doing a bunch of research, whereas some other people on the show maybe do a little more research.
Or don't.
Yeah.
That's me. You're talking about me.
Well, James will do more research.
He does do his homework. Yeah. To make sure he has the right answer. Where I'm just like, if James on the show, I don't need.
But as you know very well, I am not opposed to saying I don't know.
Correct. Yeah. And you don't mind shooting from the hip either.
No, but I don't want to just make something up either.
That's where I come in. Yeah. I don't mind making stuff up. You know that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, you maybe have in the past.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
it's a possibility.
So, what is, if you had to pin down a number? What's that magic number that you'd say is, hey, if your beer doesn't get above this where it's being stored at, then you're fine?
I don't know.
You don't even have a made up number? I know, but like 70.
I think you could store your beer at 70 for a few months. I don't know exactly how long, but I think it also depends on the style of the beer.
Okay. You're right. There are factors.
I mean, I think if you had a lager, a real nice, crisp lager, you wouldn't want to store it at 70 for 3-4 months. I think if you had a ESB or a British beer, you could get away with it more. I don't know. I mean, I just don't ever do it. I mean, I've never experimented with it because I always keep my beer cold.
And in theory, as a homebrewer, he's not going to be brewing so much that we're talking months. Then my suggestion would be hold off on brewing until maybe your keg gets to 1 gallon left, and then brew to where it's going to only be sitting.
Or just have 27 refrigerators at your house like I do.
No kidding.
I counted the number of refrigeration units in where I live a while back, and I was astonished. Between our house, I mean, my wife has fridges in rooms I don't even know.
Well, let me guess real quick. Off the top of my head, 12.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Because I can think I have been in some rooms where I'm like, oh, that's a dorm fridge. Look at that.
Yeah. My wife has dorm fridges in every
everywhere,
room. Yeah.
all over your house.
All over the house. So God only knows how much electricity.
That's
we
where you
use on
grab these new
fridges.
Glarus from. Was from my dorm fridge.
Yeah.
I always think about. I saw a fridge on Craigslist recently for $100, and I was like, oh, I want another garage fridge. Like, because then I can make a good cold crash chamber. I can.
Yeah, it's got to be big. That's the thing.
I know that
you want something bigger. I'll tell you we bought a commercial fridge with a window on it that a lot of people use for beer and bars, and where they line them up in rows, and it's got the big glass door.
Oh, it's very nice.
So we bought that when we first started doing homebrew supplies, and we weren't selling a lot of yeast, and we put all of our yeast in there, and then we had to get a walk-in.
Yeah.
So I took that home. And, I always had my nice little beers lined up in it, and now it almost always has kegs on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I raised the level, and I can get 6 kegs in that sucker.
Yeah. Or carboys. Do you have carboys in there?
I have carboys in there. I can get 3 full-size carboys in there.
I know, it's wild.
And it's so versatile. I love that thing.
Yeah. But it's a true... And if people do their homework on it, it's not cheap.
No, it wasn't cheap.
It can't be something we recommend to the average bear.
I bought it at a place that has scratch and dents locally.
It was a scratch and dent?
Yeah, Comanche Appliance. So where we
I didn't know
live.
that's where you got it.
Yeah, and I think I ended up, at the time I paid like $1,000 for it.
That's nothing.
I'm sure now they're a lot more than that because the fridge and everything's gone up.
Remember,
so much.
there was a local restaurant selling a 2-tap. I forget the brand. It could hold 3 full-size kegs, and we're talking about commercial kegs. And it was 3 or 4-tap. I remember they were asking like $2,500.
Oh, I know.
And you told me like I wouldn't pay more than $1,000 for that thing.
Yeah, not used.
Yeah, not used, especially in its environment. We know in commercial settings that kind of equipment's abused because the people operating it just don't know any better. The faucets are getting, you're gonna definitely almost have to replace all the levers. There's a lot, or I would just replace the faucets in general because of what I do for a living. But anyways, so we'll just say he's gonna be fine as depending on the type of beer and all that. So there might be a little additional homework he'll need to do before deciding which style he's gonna brew, knowing it's gonna have to sit in a keg for a while. Yeah,
the other thing too is make sure if you're gonna do that you've really purged it well. You don't have any oxygen. You've got just CO2. Because, you think about it, when I buy beer in the store a lot, especially because I live in a small town, so when I go to the big city, I go to one of the big retailers that has hundreds of beers. A lot of times I will purposely buy the ones that are warm. Because I'm gonna take them home and all that.
3-hour drive.
I don't want to go way up in temperature, way down, way up. So I'll buy them warm and then either store them warm for a little while or cool them down when I get home. So a lot of times beer in cans and bottles is warm when you buy it. So
yeah, that's a good point. All right. So Bryson, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to question number 3, our buddy Daniel, also using their text message hotline at 325-305-6107. Daniel wrote, do you think the average home brewer can tell if a beer has been bottle carbonated or force carbonated in a keg? It's a blind taste test I challenge you to do for a future video. Bottle condition versus keg condition, or bottle carbonation using priming sugar versus forced carbonation. I don't think I could tell if it was properly done in either setting.
I think if we did a blind taste test and we had both, and some guy took the time to do it in a bottle and then somebody forced carbonated it, I think my guess would be that the 3 of us wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Well, you shouldn't, because carbonation is I mean, it's a similar effect. It's
Careful, my friend. There's going to be people that disagree with you on this.
Oh, that could be the title of my inbox. People who disagree with me.
Yeah, there are diehard people that will say, no, you have to naturally carbonate it. It makes all the difference
even in a keg. We get a
and-
lot of feedback
Sure,
where people are like,
yeah.
I do bigger batches in kegs and I still natural carbonate. And where I'm just a man of convenience again, where forced carbonation, get that carbonic acid in there and let's start serving, baby. I
will bet you $5 that you can't tell the difference.
No, I'm not gonna, because I'm gonna win $5 by holding strong through the rest of the year. Even though that's a bet I think I'd win. And no, of course I can't tell the difference. That's also one though I could totally fudge and be like, oh yeah, I could tell this is a bottle carbonated. And if I was wrong, it doesn't mean I lose the $5, right? Or no, it would mean I'd lose the $5.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the question though. I don't think the average human being, much less brewer, can tell the difference. But if they are done correctly, because like if you you had over carbonation with one of your batches a while back of the grapefruit pale.
Yeah, bottled.
It was that's what I mean. And you did too much of it to where I don't know if I could tell like, oh, that was done in a bottle, because over carbonation happens in kegs too.
Yeah, and it happened. I think one of the reasons it happens a lot is because you make 5 gallons of beer and you rarely get 5 gallons of beer.
Totally.
Because you just lose some. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it works. There's stuff in the bottom after you're finished. After you're finished with your boil, there's stuff in the bottom after you finish with your fermentation. Well, I guess if you're fermenting in you know what I mean, when you're bottling it.
Yep.
So you lose some beer, but you still got that packet for 5 gallons and you dump it in there. I mean, what you should do is you should carefully measure what's going to fit in the bottles, and I need to cut this amount of priming sugar down to exactly the correct amount. But a lot of times that doesn't happen. I rarely hear about people that undercarbonate when they in the bottles. But I hear a lot about people overcarbonating.
I agree completely. Where I think I'm almost more prone to undercarb in a keg because I know I can correct it easier.
Absolutely.
Which is another reason why kegging is superior. You can't. How do you recarb a bottled beer that was improperly carbonated? You don't.
Well, you do. Yeah, I mean, I do it all the time.
That's in bottles?
Yeah, you open it and you let it sit for an hour.
Oh, right. No, but I meant undercarbed. If you undercarbed a bottled beer, you can't come back from that.
No.
You're talking about overcarb. Like that grapefruit pale ale, one time you were sharing it with the contractor who was at your house, and you're like, he wanted to try some beer at the house. And you go, I've got this beer. You set it there. You go, but what else do you want? We'll come back to this one.
Right.
It's like 20 minutes later. You're like, okay, now it's ready to pour. And it had to just sit and breathe. But undercarbonating in a bottle, you can't.
Yeah, you have to pour a bunch in a 2-liter bottle, put one of those carb caps on.
No. And terrify me. Yeah. Oh, no, they're a great invention, I'm sure. But carbonating in 2-liter bottles and stuff, that just terrifies me. But it's the pressure stuff in these Keg Keens and Firmzillas and all that stuff. That terrifies me too. And I know they're rated for pressure. It says it all over it, but it just something about pressure and plastic really scares me.
Yeah, James actually made a mistake. I don't know if he's mentioned it to you, but he put his when he was doing pressure fermentation last time, he put the valve. What am I trying to say? The spunding valve. He put it on backwards.
So, but that thankfully on those things, that's the second line of defense, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I told him. I said,
okay, I
guarantee you that if it got to the point where it was going to blow up, your pressure relief valve was releasing.
The pull tab pressure relief valve, in theory,
and he said, "Oh man, it was tight as a drum when I came in Monday."
Oh my God, that would terrify me.
Yeah, I know it would.
Oh, yeah. I would have freaked out.
And I don't know what it did.
Oh.
We may have to talk to Jonathan, but it wasn't. He was having a hard time getting it to get going. And in fact, I need to ask him when we get off this if he was able to get it down. But it was at like 1.018, and it was
it's stuck
because it was maybe it got too much pressure and it wasn't able to ferment enough. But I'm thinking once he brought the pressure down, there's still the sugar in there. There's still yeast. It probably finished out, or maybe he even put some more yeast.
And the Jonathan
in.
you're talking about is our buddy Jonathan Marut. And when he listens to the episode, I know because my phone goes bloop, 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 telling me all the things I said wrong.
Right.
And so we're going to have the Marut minute one of these days where he leaves a voicemail. Josh, you're an idiot. Here's what it really should have been. And the Marut minute is what I'm going for. The average home brewer telling the difference, Daniel? No, I don't think we can. I don't think the average human can if it's done properly. But
I think there are people that can.
Well, if they are, reach out to me, especially if you're in Central Texas, because then we could do a video. It would be the most boring video ever to have me with 2 beers. One was in a bottle condition. One was forced carbonated in a keg. And go. I mean, I'll do it. I like drinking beer, but it's going to be boring because, can you tell the difference? No. Oh, okay. Next beer. Can you tell the difference? Nope. Okay, next beer. If anyone knows the science behind why you should be able to tell the difference, please leave us feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
325-305-6107, or if you're a real expert, maybe we'll just have you on the show too.
Yeah.
Talk about carbonation. We love experts in the niches of things that make up homebrewing and the components.
Absolutely.
Our last question of this show came from our buddy Luke, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Luke wrote, "Hey fellas, I love your podcast. My question is about filtering beer after it's already been kegged. I brewed an IPA which called for a healthy amount of dry hopping. After kegging the beer, my post is getting clawed too often, and I feel like I'm picking hops from my teeth. I've been there, done that. I wanted a hoppy beer, but not like this. Can I safely transfer this beer through a filter and into a different keg? What would you suggest I do? Maybe ask James. Haha. Luke. James isn't here, Luke. You're stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. We better call James.
I know. I bet James, what do you do? You've never filtered beer.
I have filtered beer.
When did you filter beer?
Oh, a long time ago. I filtered a beer.
But it just wasn't worth it for you to continue doing that?
When I cold crash it, can get it crystal clear, so I just don't bother with it. But yeah, you could certainly filter it out. He may have mentioned this and I wasn't listening, but I don't know how when he put the hops in, did he put them in a bag? That's what I typically do, is put them in a bag. And there was a big study done on that one time that I read, where they had a bunch of people that tasted, and some would say, yeah, I can tell the nuance of the one that was dumped in versus the one that was in the bag, but it was very close to whether people could tell. So I was like, you know what? I'll just put a few extra hops in there, and I'm going to put it in a bag and not worry about it, because I hate having all those hops.
That was a Brewlosophy experiment, which just reminds me, I believe they just recently did one about carbonated beer from a keg in a bottle, and I think their conclusion was they couldn't tell.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just published one. I get the newsletter. Great podcast over there. Marshall and those guys are doing cool things. I think one of their members of their brew crew is what they call theirs. It's not as good a name as Trub Club, but brew crew. Yeah. Good try though. With
yeah.
But they
E for effort.
Yeah,
right?
E for effort. But they're like you said, they did have a thing about people dry hopping with a bag and without a bag, and it's almost like the question before, where it's like, can you really tell the difference? I don't think so. But what adding the bag saves you from is an excess of particulates sticking around. My dad and I dry hopped once one of your session IPAs. The one we did for the Chub Club maybe last January, not this January of 2022, but 2021, and big mistake. Every pour, getting the hops in my teeth, and having to blow out the post to clear it out. And that we took a question like this one time where the answer was kind of, you can, while beer's in it, unpressurize or depressurize the keg, take the post out, cut it to where it's not drawing from the bottom. And that will help, because those particulates, assuming your keg's not shaking up and all that, are going to sit at the bottom. And as you're drawing from the keg, they're going to stay there at the bottom as long as the keg's not shaking.
Right.
And so cutting up a couple inches, in theory, will help from sucking up all those particulates.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't even need to be a couple. Probably an inch would work.
An inch would be great. Yeah. Other solutions were, if you're going to dry hop frequently, and if you're going to dry hop in a keg, using a floating dip tube is like what most people recommend from the beginning. They'd say, if you use a floating dip tube, you can ferment in the keg and then serve in that same keg. Sure. Because once you start drawing yeast and trub and all that, or trub, you're going to know, okay, I'm at the bottom, the floating dip tube's there, this keg's done. You know, you don't have to wait for the awful, pitiful noise that we get.
Right.
So maybe that saves you some heartbreak from there. But after kegging a beer and then running it through a filter seems like a recipe for disaster for oxidation to me. Like, how could you safely... I know, James...
So what
you could push it from the keg into that filtration vessel, and then from that into the liquid of the other keg. That would be the only way to do it.
You know, one thing you could do, I haven't ever mentioned this before, but I've thought about it even with James on his concerns with it, is I think you could start with a keg with some water in it and run water through the whole filter system until it's coming out the other end. And then at that point, start with your beer. And when you get to the point where beer's coming out the other end, then put it on your keg, and you shouldn't get any oxygen that way.
Interesting. So you're just filling the space.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a theory, or
theory, total theory.
You've never seen it in practice.
Nope.
Just okay. I can't wait for people to roast you in the comments. I didn't.
I'm welcome to roasting. I think it'll work. Yeah, it would work because you're taking all the oxygen out before you.
It's true.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea. James, though, when he filters, it's usually from the conical through the filter to the keg, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're describing would be very similar. It's just
or you could just purge the whole thing with CO2 first. I think that's what he does.
He does. He purges the receiving keg completely with CO2.
But also he purges the hose, the filter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm guessing that's what he does.
How would you?
You would just run CO2 through everything before you started the beer going.
Okay. Interesting.
You got to get the oxygen out of there for it to
I like
work
the water
well.
idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Because also, too, it's not adding any... I mean, you use RO water.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take a ton.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, that'd be something worth trying.
Yeah, I think it'd work well.
That's a great idea. But are you just... I've never heard this from you. Have you told James this idea?
Mm-mm.
Ah.
I just thought of it just now.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
On the spot.
Yep.
Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I wonder... That Luke, so when you're filtering though, you do have to, it's not just like, oh, you have everything at home. Let's show you how to filter. You have to get the housing and the filters and the right tubing and the connections.
It's a number 10, I believe. And it's, you can buy the housing. Oh, you can get that stuff even on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's
everything's
just
said
common.
Done. It's probably under $50 for everything said and done.
Yeah.
And, but I'm just saying it's not like, there's other solutions, in my opinion, to save you from this issue, starting with the most basic of dry hopping with a bag.
Yeah.
And dry hopping in secondary, assuming you're not dry hopping in the keg. You can dry hop in the keg, but then if you do that, maybe you do cut an inch off of your dip tube to prevent the drawing of the particulates, or switch to a floating dip tube. A ton of people have hit me up saying, tell Todd Burns to carry floating dip tubes. So I'm relaying that to you now.
We should, we should have them.
Because they're like, you're doing pressure fermentation. How do you not do it in the keg too? Just use a floating dip tube. I'm like, everything you're saying makes sense. Stop yelling at me. Yeah. It's in all caps. I'm assuming they're yelling at me.
I mean, I'm sure it would be fairly easy for us to start stocking those.
We should because that's, especially with pressure fermentation, that's like hand in hand.
Yeah. Talk to our marketing director. He should get that set up.
That guy's a bum.
Yeah.
So I would say, Luke, that they're like, to get to the root of your question, yes, it is possible to filter beer that's already been kegged. We will follow up with how James would do it on episode 300 next week when he's back on the show.
That's a great idea.
I will follow up. I'll make a note on here because he might have, like, your idea is great, but he might have even a different way of like, oh, well, if it's already in the keg and this, here's what I do.
Right.
And we get a perspective from someone who does filter regularly.
Right.
Much more regularly. I've never done it. I had no idea you ever filtered.
Yeah, I've filtered, yeah.
But you're a fan of secondary where you're not really on the internet that much, or at least not where the young people hang out. You're not on Reddit or Facebook as much. On Reddit, the threads, you would think secondary is dead. Nobody does it anymore. It's for dinosaurs.
Really?
Can you believe that?
Well, I think if you do a closed transfer and you go into a glass carboy and you cool that glass carboy, I think you can get a really, really nice clear beer. And I think the reason most people do it is it takes more equipment, it takes more time, it takes patience. And young people don't have patience, you know?
No, we don't. And youngish people don't either.
Right, right.
As I bald and my neck hurts, I don't know. I feel bad calling myself young. But Luke, thank you so much for submitting your question. We'll follow up with it on episode 300. Todd, thank you for coming in person to do this.
That was fun.
And we had a good lunch too. I had an omelet. You like that?
Yeah, and I had chicken tortilla soup. You can't beat that.
You were able to order for me. It was funny because the guy knows my order.
Right, right.
Like he looked at you like, yes, I know what he orders.
Well, yeah, it was funny because he walks up, what do y'all want to order? And I'm like, chicken tortilla soup, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have an omelet. And the guy was like, well, of course he's going to have an omelet. Of course it's Josh.
Yeah, exactly. I have to tell, if my CPA ever asked, I got to tell them I'm a minor investor in a Mexican restaurant in San Marcos, Texas.
Yes.
Why do you spend so much money there? Oh, I'm a minor investor. What are your dividends? I don't want to talk about it. Get off the phone. But anyways, thank you for coming and do the show. I can't wait for episode 300.
It's going to be fun.
See you then.
All right.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call and leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Hey, get a free pack of Imperial yeast along with premium and delicious recipes from us when you join our Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.